to the Give Back Girls podcast. I'm Anita Cunningham.
And I'm Toria McFadden.
Today, Tori and I have the pleasure to talk with Jamie Russell and Mindy Smith from Brightpoint, which some of you may know as Children's Home and Aid.
We've been so excited to have Jamie and Mindy on the show to tell you all a little bit about what Brightpoint does, how 100 Women for Good Bloomington Normal has been able to help with some of their projects, and what we can look forward to next from Brightpoint.
You know, I had heard of Brightpoint from different fundraisers like the Stuff the Bus campaign that pops up this time of year and the Sharon of the Green parade at St. Patrick's Day. But until 100 Women for Good partnered with them in our first year, I really had no idea how much they offer our local communities.
Totally agree, Anita. In fact, maybe we should provide our listeners a little more context. When we were getting 100 Women for Good stood up in early 2020, we really wanted to partner with one organization with a lot of different projects and opportunities to help their clients. We felt like getting our feet under us with one organization while we figured out how to market, how to communicate to our members and local nonprofits, and how we were going to handle getting the donations to the nonprofits might help us in the long run. And thankfully, Brightpoint, which was Children's Home and Aid at the time, was willing to partner with us.
Perfect summary, Toria, because that was a lot of work and we really appreciate Brightpoint. And so with that, I would love to introduce our guests. Mindy Smith is the Central Regional Vice President for Brightpoint and has over 20 years of experience in child and family support. Mindy's experience includes working with award-winning home visiting programs such as Healthy Families, Parents as Teachers, doula programs, and Safe from the Start. Jamie Russell is the Program Director of Family Support who recently celebrated 20 years of service at Brightpoint. Congratulations, Jamie. Like Mindy, Jamie's experience is also around programs such as Healthy Families, Parents as Teachers, and doula work, as well as with the Office of Violence Against Women. Jamie also runs a statewide referral system to support pregnant and or parenting youth in care to get connected to home visits across Illinois. Mindy, Jamie, welcome to the Give Back Girls podcast.
Thanks so much.
Yay.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, Mindy, could you get us started by providing an overview of the services that Brightpoint provides in McLean County?
I sure can. And it was interesting when you were talking about not knowing about what nonprofits and like where they are. I've lived in Bloomington Normal my whole life and had gone by what was formerly Children's Home and Aid on State Street 100 times. And until you really actually go in, see it, talk to people, all it is a building. And we're glad here to be able to kind of talk about how those buildings talk and how we bring that out in the community. We provide programming for early childhood services as well as some behavioral health, family support programming, home visiting, doula, and the list goes on, including some fatherhood services as well. I'm going to let Jamie explain what they do, but the one thing that they all have in common is their family-centered services, providing that preventative approach to provide families the resources and the connection to each other to be able to be the best they can be as parents and providers in this community. So I'll let Jamie kick it off.
All right, thank you. As you probably gathered from what Mindy just shared, Brightpoint does a lot of prevention programming that really focuses around supporting families. We have a few home visiting programs, as mentioned, Healthy Families, which we locally call Healthy Start, and Parents as Teachers, which we, again, locally call Early Start.
We have lots of names.
Yeah. But overall, home visiting's main focus is to partner with families to promote child development, connect families to community resources, and promote bonding and attachment. We hope to be able to get to families identified in our services early so they can also participate and utilize our doula program. For those of you who may not know, a doula is someone who supports a family starting around the third trimester and provides education around what potentially to expect around labor and delivery. We all know that doesn't always go as planned, but they really work to do what's best to make sure families are as prepared as possible so that caregivers can have a safe, memorable, and empowering birth experience. Our doulas continue to provide support and education for several weeks postpartum and partner with our home visiting programs to ensure that families might get all the resources they may need as they navigate, having a new infant in the home. We know that parenting is a full-time job and a very stressful job. And so at Brightpoint, we have our crisis nursery, whose overall goal is to provide support to families through facilitated breaks where parents can schedule needed respite, or if they have an appointment to attend or any of that, they can make an appointment and have their child well cared for at the nursery. They also assist in linking families to resources that may come up as they're there picking up or dropping off their children. And they can provide tangible supports like diapers, wipes, formula, and that type of stuff available, which is, as mentioned, the stuff the bus campaign is
We just got done with it.
just got done with that, and it's a big support that helps fill our nurseries for the year. Finally, I just wanted to also talk about our Scott Child and Family Center. Scott's Child and Family Center has degree-certified teachers. They partner with families to promote growth and development for children 6 weeks to 5. Our teachers develop individualized lesson plans and meet with parents to support the best outcome for those students. And at Scott's Child and Family Center, they also provide early Head Start and Head Start center-based programming for children 0 to 5. So a lot going on there.
The other couple programs that I wanted to touch base on, one was the Family Visitation Center, which is the location where we can have parents drop off and pick up children, so there's no conflict during that time with high instances of conflict and so forth. We eliminate that because we're having a place where children can come and not have that. Or we also can provide supervised visits there as well. And that's a partnership with our Law and Justice Center and our district attorneys and police department. It's a wonderful collaboration that we have with the Family Visitation Center, which also includes our children's room, which is actually at the courthouse, so that people don't have to have the kids in court. And so that's been a wonderful partnership with the Law and Justice Center here in McLean County, and some of the attorneys and judges have been very supportive, obviously, of that. The one thing you'll see in common for all these is that they can really overlap. A family could come in and need childcare, but then actually realize that they could get additional support from a doula, or from going to our Parents Care and Share Parenting Support Group, or going to get behavioral health, mental health services. So what we really have tried to bring into a big, this agency is more of a family resource center type, where families come for one thing and we listen and hopefully can provide it either internally or with our community partners, because McLean County is a great collaborating type of community with nonprofits, as you guys probably have seen in your time with 100 Women.
See, I learned something new already.
I swear, every single time we talk to Jamie and Mindy, I learn something new that Brightpoint does. So that's just amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
So, in 2020, you graciously agreed to partner with 100 Women while we figured out how to run our organization. And one thing we're wanting to do with this podcast is kind of go back to, like, where are you now? But what I'd first like to do is talk about what we partnered on and collaborated on during that crazy 2020 year. So, Jamie, are you going to share that with us right now?
I am.
Okay.
And, we were both thrilled and honored to be chosen to even be one of the first group to be able to come and present and do that. And so the first grant was awarded to provide diapers and wipes to families in our community who struggle with diaper insecurity. If you're not aware, diaper insecurity is when a caregiver cannot afford to keep their child in clean, dry diapers. So in these circumstances, they often resort to alternating options like stretching the length of time their children are in a diaper, to using non-diaper materials to make sure that their child has a substitute for a diaper. And so, I gave that speech and a little bit more research with that. And the support through 100 Women for Good allowed our family support program to provide families with smaller bags of about 20 diapers each, to help families kind of balance out that time between when they would get paychecks or any of that, to be able to spread out that the trips to the grocery store and all of that as well. And the impact of that alone, that first year, lasted well over a year, and locally, and we were able to purchase diapers, wipes, supplies, and a diaper shed to really house everything. But what I would really also want to share is, because of that work, our Brightpoint policy team learned about that request that we did here with you all, and the research that we did to put into that, and took it a whole new level. And so there is currently legislation out working to address diaper insecurity across Illinois.
Across the nation, too.
I have chills. That's amazing.
Yeah. And so Brightpoint is working on legislation to add a diaper allowance for caregivers earning under a specific income threshold to purchase diapers. And so we, our policy team statewide is really working to get that off the ground as well, all because of where it started in McLean County in our.
Can you remind me the research you found? Like, what was the average people are usually short per month when you did that?
It was just about 16 to 18 diapers a month, and that also caused not only families to stretch out, so the hygiene part of that for children, but also found out that a lot of child care centers do not allow families to take their child if they don't bring the diapers, and so families missed 1 to 2 days a month of taking their child to childcare, which also then means they're not going to work, which then they cannot then afford the diapers. It's just it's a never-ending cycle with that.
Or even pushing them to maybe potty train before they're totally ready, and yeah, there's still, it just increases to the amount of stress as a parent, as a lot of us know.
I think that diaper example is just so perfect to illustrate how something that can feel so minor can have these ripple effects through an entire family's existence. If I can't take my kid to daycare, I can't go to work. If I can't go to work, I can't buy more diapers, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So it's just what an awesome program.
And one good thing is we could partner with our Scott's Child and Family Center, because it was on our campus, to if any of our families that went to their needed diapers, like we would bring them right in. And it'd be great to be able to continue to partner with other ones as well, or have legislation that says that a family cannot be turned away from any center for that type of need.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Before we started at 100 Women for Good, working more closely with Brightpoint and other local nonprofits, I so naively believed that you guys had big fundraising efforts, and we see them publicized, we hear them on the radio, and I just figured, okay, they have everything they need to support their clients. And now I know that is just not the case. And additional funding is always needed from your organization as well as other local nonprofits beyond what these big efforts can really provide. Can you share a little bit more about how Brightpoint funds your efforts and what role the donations that you receive play in that funding?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I thought the same thing walking in the door, thinking, oh, this is easy, right? And there's so many events. Like which one do we go to and what does it mean and what's it going towards? And then we had the additional challenge of being a statewide organization. Are the donations staying here? Are they going to be in McLean County? So I can kind of address a little bit that as well. So for us, majority of our programming is state or federal funded. So you're talking about Department of Human Services, DCFS, Illinois State Board of Education, our funding. Majority of those grants that we write predominantly cover salary for staff. And, the salaries aren't, can't ever be high enough for the work they do. But that's basically what it covers, and maybe some, turning the lights on and keeping our buildings and so forth. So it's never that we can look at that grant and be like, oh, we don't have to fundraise, let alone the enhancements to the quality that we want to do. We don't want to do the bare minimum of a grant. We want to make sure that we're doing what do we need to do today to get better for tomorrow and so forth. So the fundraising events are critical to be able to provide that quality and to be able to provide the scope of work that really is needed in McLean County. The other thing that we try to do is we try to get creative with partnering with other nonprofits, whether it's, joining together an event, or maybe it's, hey, we'll do some more cross-referring so we don't have to be everything because we know Neville House has it, for domestic violence or whatever that might look like. So part of that is partnering. These types of grants that provide specific things like a diaper closet, maybe a garden, or maybe making beds, or whatever those things are never going to fit in a line item on a budget from one of our funders. So it provides us the flexibility to do the things that we want to do, not the things that we always have to do. And I think that makes the difference with our participants. The last thing is what Brightpoint has been very consistent with any fundraising that we get from donors or foundations or groups like yours is that if it's for a Bloomington program, it stays in Bloomington. If we're fundraising in Champaign for our Champaign home visiting program, it stays there, because we do understand that people want to make sure that they try to help the community. We have statewide initiatives for bigger types of things, but when we're looking at things like this, we want to make sure that the funding's going, or the supplies of diapers is staying within the county that it was designed to be for.
And I have to imagine that those state funding mechanisms, like, they're very defined, I would imagine. And the donations that you get locally really helps meet emergent needs, things that we didn't even know we were going to need to ask money for.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. It might be for a model, or maybe something for research, or, like, this is what we have to do, which, again, you have to serve this many families. You need to provide X, Y, and Z. But even that, with the cost of living every year, as you know, state and federal funding doesn't always keep up with that either. And so the unrestricted dollars that people give, or the donations we get, are just critical for us to be able to continue to serve over 3,500, families, children and families a year out of McLean County.
So whenever we have a chance to talk to nonprofits, there's always that story that touches our hearts. That's one of the hardest things when we're voting on donation at a meeting. Tugs at our heartstrings. So do either of you have, now you can only tell just one, a client story that's really impacted you, that you would want to share, obviously keeping all the confidential stuff at bay? But
I would love to share a quick story. Before, as you said, I'm a director now, but years before that, I was a home visitor myself, and I had, a family on my caseload, 5 full years, from very infant, graduated. And I'm not even going to tell a story about when this family was on my caseload. It was about 2 years after they graduated. I get a call from the mom, and she said that they'd experienced a fire, and were lost a lot of their things. And of course, your first thought is, oh, how it's been so long. What are they calling that we might have? Because now your child's 7, 8. What are we going to have with our 0 to 5 type programming? She was calling and asking if we had any extra books. We were talking, as we shared, we partner with other programs and funding sources as well. Well, one of the things that our home visiting partners with is Bloomington Normal Books for Kids. And it was previously, back in her time, First Book. But our home visiting doula programs really focus on literacy. And so for the 5 years that family was in services, they would get a book every month. And, learning to read and all of that was very important. So knowing that, and she had shared when she called, she's like, do you have any extra books? Because really the books that she got for those first 5 years are what she's learning to read on now. Because it's a different skill set. Before, it's reading to learn pictures and do all that. Now it's learning to read the words and do the stories. And she's like, if you guys just have any extra type of books that we would be able to have to continue this love of reading, because she learned the love of reading in home visiting. And so we luckily did have some extra, even we have. Oh, yes, we found the books. Yeah, we found the books. And so to be able to provide that. But even, a few years after that, I got a phone call that not only is this family continuing to thrive, and all that they also were, I don't know the right word, but awarded or got the opportunity to do Habitat for Humanity and got a Habitat house. And she just wanted to call and share that story. She's like, we're getting our first forever house, our house. And it's just so neat that even years later, families calling just to tell you, updates, and that the time that you were with them, because 0 to 5, you don't get to see their full story. You don't get, you see them on the street when they're 14 and 15. You don't recognize them from when they were 5 years old. And so be able to get some of those updates, just something that I treasure.
That's great.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll add, that's a program that the family's with us for 5 years. Our crisis nursery, we might only see them one time or maybe a couple of times. The Stuff the Bus campaign is always a favorite for us to get out and get cold, and all of our teams, as well as our board and local community members come and volunteer their time. So we're out there and we're collecting gifts, and it's a feel good moment after you thaw out your fingers. But it's been great. But anyway, I was at the door collecting and handing out flyers, and a young, everybody's young to me, but a young gentleman came up to me and he pulls out money out of his pocket, and it was a couple, I don't know, just a wad of cash, and said, "Here, I want to give this to you." And I said, "Oh, thank you." And I said, "This is for the Crisis Nursery." And he said, "Yes, I know." And he said, "I'm a dad, and when I came here, I had nobody, and without you, I wouldn't be the dad I am today." And I said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so very much." I said, "Do you want to come in, and say hi?" He goes, "Nope, I just want to give that to you." He goes, "I used you twice, and during those 2 times, I got the ability to cry over the loss of my girlfriend at the time, and the second time I got a job." So anyway, I made him show me a picture of his little one. But anyway, it just shows how much investment the participants have in the program, let alone what Jamie's never going to give herself enough credit of what a great home visitor she was with this family and others. But it's really it's a beautiful experience when you have the staff that care that much and the participants that want to work with us. Talk about letting someone come in your home and work with you. It's a lot of trust to allow it, and we don't take it lightly.
Thank you for sharing.
That's amazing. Tori, have you ever heard one story from Brightpoint that doesn't bring you to tears?
No.
Because I'm like fighting about
I know,
right
me too.
now. Every time. All right. You guys, Brightpoint already addresses so many needs through the services that you provide. But when you think about 2025 and beyond, are you thinking about expanding or changing any of your services, or like just what's next for Brightpoint?
Yeah. Did you talk to my boss? Or just kidding. No, I'm kidding. We're always looking on what's next because we don't have the luxury to sit back and do things the way that we always do it, because families are always needing, or the community is always needing something different. A couple things that we're looking at expanding our behavioral health programming to partner within our early childhood center. So actually having therapists on site that would be able to provide observations of what's kind of going on in the classrooms, to provide services, as well as providing services for our staff to help them, like, this is what's going on, I'm stressed out, how can I get help, and then provide additional training. So, really looking at how we merge programming together and not look at it as buckets, like you do mental health, you do this. So that's one thing that we're really working on, and how we take down those silos. Another piece is that we have the Fatherhood Coalition that's been doing a lot of great work over 5 years. I can't remember what the cake said this year. We had an anniversary party. Earl Klotman's going to really get mad at me on that, and Dorothy. But it's been going on for a while, where we've been providing opportunities for what I would even call non-traditional partners. So not all nonprofits, right? So people from local businesses, small business, service industry, whatever, dads, to come together to talk about how we can make our services more accessible to fathers. So we're trying to figure out how we can do that. And then specifically this year, we're looking at how we are partnering with Spanish-speaking fathers as well. So we've got working with Western Avenue and other partners on how we can see that growing need to provide support to fathers. I think those are the 2 main things that we're really looking at, as well as how we continue to partner doula services with our home visiting services. And we've done a little bit of expansion in mental health in some of our rural communities that can't access outside of McLean County.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Great. How can people get help from Brightpoint?
People can call and come to the Crisis Nursery. That's kind of a point of entry for a lot of our services. They're kind of a connection hub to make sure that if they can't provide the service there, right, and it's within Brightpoint, that they can get to the right people, and then very great connections to other McLean County resources as well. Our website has been updated recently, and it's got a lot of our different programming and how to get in touch with everyone with that, or calling our front desk. We have a wonderful, wonderful staff up front, Caitlin, who would love to direct you to services as well.
Yeah, the nice thing about the Crisis Nursery line is it's 24/7. So, families, just like we always say about our doula program, nobody has a baby 8:30 to 5 on a Wednesday. No. So it's usually, we know that those calls are going to happen at different times. So the crisis nursery is great, as well as some people don't feel safe calling. So maybe, emailing through our webpage is easier. A lot of our referrals come from someone that's had the service. So, which is great. And they'll call and they might not know the name of it, but as soon as they start explaining it, we're like, oh, you're talking about home visiting. Even though you called it a doula, you're talking about home visiting because you're not pregnant. What we try to do is that we know enough, no matter who you can contact, that hopefully we'll be able to get that connection in one of those 3 ways. So.
Awesome. I just love how accessible all these services are. And I think what I'm hearing you guys say, if you are a family and you are experiencing some hardship, calling Brightpoint is a great first place to start, just to see what kind of services you all have that might be able to help.
Absolutely. We're here to listen.
We'd love for them to call.
Yep.
And how can people help Brightpoint help more people in need? And I think I just heard maybe one of them is like referring, obviously, if you have experience, right?
Yeah.
But are there other ways?
Yeah, I mean, sharing our social or just talking about us, is great. Coming and doing a tour. It's the most powerful thing I think you can do, tour the facility. Volunteering. We always need help, whether it's, rocking a baby, or we have a lot of cleanups, or outside, our facilities and so forth. Doing your own type of diaper drive, doing your own type of book drive, those types of things. A lot of the local churches have been real big supports in that in our community, as well as figuring out, we have a lot of our donation sites, of course, that you can find ways to donate financially, but just the time and the ability to get our name out.
And one thing that I don't know if we've said enough, but we have a lot of different activities and
events.
Yes, that's the word I'm going for. Thank you.
But they're usually pretty fun.
That's
the volleyball. Yeah, go ahead.
Events. We have Volleyball Palooza, that we get to do. Sharing of the Green Parade, 5Ks, so many different opportunities. We just had 12 beers.
Me too.
I'm sorry. Let me reverse that. We just were sponsored through Fat Jacks to have 12 Beers of Christmas event. And it was very nice. And so, we do have the opportunity to have a lot of events that, are fun, and you might pay a little money to participate in it, but, that money that comes back to us to help do programming and help have different events for the families in our community. So we would love to have you guys show up and support those events and run a 5K with us.
Absolutely. Great.
Could we not run the 5K?
There's also a 1 mile walk or volunteer at the event.
Perfect. No kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. And we even have our participants come in to the events as well, which is cool. And I talked about how they give back. We also really have parent voice in the work that we do too, where we have parent advisory boards, as well as we have parents that sit in on interviews even of staff through our early Head Start and Head Start programming. So yeah, it's really, if we can find out who doesn't know about us and how we can share that, that's so meaningful, whether it helps us financially or just helps a family get connected.
I love it. And can you tell your audience what your website is so that they can check you out?
It is brightpoint.org.
Beautiful. That's an easy one to remember. I love it.
Mindy, Jamie, thank you so much for being here today and sharing so much more about Brightpoint. I know, Anita, I don't know about you, but I learned at least a couple things. I think probably twice that, but I always learn something from nonprofits, and I learned much more about Brightpoint today.
Yeah, we've been working with Brightpoint now for over 4 years, and I'm still learning new things. So this was awesome. So thank you again, Jamie, Mindy. We loved having you. That wraps our second episode of the Give Back Girls podcast. Look for our next episode next month, and we can't wait to introduce you to the next nonprofit. A special thank you goes out to the School of Communication at Illinois State University for providing studio editing and production services.
And with that, as always, go out and do some good and give back.